For this video, I'm going to be running down and talking about each Ring of Honor show from 2009 so far. Just want to give my thoughts and recommendations on some of these shows. I finally got through all of them, and let's see how the year is going so far. I mean, I'm missing 2 shows eliminated in competition and contention, and as of this video, I still haven't got Violent Tendencies and End of an Age in the mail yet. So we're going from Full Circle to Manhattan Mayhem 3. And I took my video about the top 25 Ring of Honor matches down. You know, the music thing. It seemed like people were talking about the music and not about the video, so I just took it down. But you can see my top 25 matches from the official shows on my channel. It's posted on there. So, alright, so the first show we get is Full Circle from January. This featured Nigel McGuinness and Tyler Black in a non-title match. It was very good. It wasn't great. It had a really nice finish with Tyler Black actually winning the match. Had a feel-good finish, but the undercard was just very unwatchable stuff. I tried to do a review of it way back, but I just couldn't do it because I couldn't remember anything from the undercard. But there's a Jerry Lynn and Austin Aries match. That was okay. Bryan Danielson versus Jimmy Jacobs. Those matches were okay. But, you know, the first half of the show was just pretty unwatchable. So next up we get Injustice 2. Pretty much the same problem that Full Circle had. Just a pretty weak undercard. Jerry Lynn and Bryan Danielson had a pretty good match. But other than that, I mean, really, this is pretty much the definition of a one-match show. So Nigel versus Tyler Black. This match went to a 48-minute draw. I think they rang the bell, tried to screw Tyler Black out of the match. That was the angle of the storyline. So yeah, the time limit expired at 48 minutes, not 60 minutes. But yeah, it was a pretty long match, and there was a lot of interference in it, but I thought it worked. You know, this was pretty much Ring of Honor's version of the Attitude Era, in my opinion. So yeah, it's definitely it's a one-match show, but that match is definitely worth checking out. It's about a 4.5-star match. So next up, Motor City Madness 2009. I'm going to say this is the most underrated show from January. This is a pretty stacked show. You get the Steven Generico versus the American Wolves in a pretty solid match. Nigel McGuinness versus Jay Briscoe in a pretty decent non-title match. And then the match of the night is probably Jerry Lynn versus Tyler Black. They went to a 20-minute draw. So yeah. And for each of these shows, I have the star ratings, and not the star rating, the star ratings for the best match from the show, and the overall DVD score. That will be on the description side right there. So Cage Collision, the controversial and shitted on pay-per-view. I know the Chicago crowd really hated this show. Yeah, I mean, I probably say it was the weakest Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but Ring of Honor pay-per-views at their weakest, they're still pretty good. The Steel Cage Warfare match, I think Adam Pearce wanted to correct the problem from Glory of Honor 7. That Steel Cage Warfare went on too long. It just dragged too long, that one. But this one, I felt like they rushed it too much. So, you know, they probably should have went somewhere in between. This came off just really rushed. But, you know, the action was still pretty solid. It was still a pretty fun show. El Generico versus Nigel McGuinness was an okay match. And the Fatal 4-Way was okay. So what are we at now? Okay. So Proving Ground Night 1. I mean, this is a pretty weak show, to tell you the truth. I think the main event is pretty good. You get Tyler Black and Davey Richards. Really refreshing main event. But other than that, there's really nothing to talk about. Nigel and Brent Albright had an okay non-title match. Dark City Fight Club put up a good fight against Steven Generico. But, you know, just the first half of the year, or the first 2 months, I just thought the undercards were pretty weak. It featured a lot of local jobber guys and just a lot of squash matches. So yeah, Proving Ground Night 2 was a much better show. You get Bryan Danielson versus El Generico. That was a pretty fun match. That was definitely the match of the night. Nigel and D'Lo Brown had a world title match. A little bit better than you would expect, but not great though. The match that really, you know, surprised people was the Dark City Fight Club and Francisco Ciazzo versus Roderick Strong, Eric Stevens, and Brent Albright. Just a really hard-hitting match. That was really good. But other than that, Kevin Steen and David Richards had a good match. But, you know, the undercard was pretty okay to boring. So, Stylin and Profilin, the Ric Flair Show. Now, this has the opener of the year, in my opinion. You get Jay Briscoe versus Roderick Strong. They started the show off with a bang. Some pretty good matches here. Nothing great. The Four Corner Survival is all right. The main event is pretty much a disappointment. Nigel McGuinness versus Brent Albright ended in a DQ. There was times when Flair was just looking on at the action, and some of the shots were kind of awkward and just kind of weird. So yeah, that was, I don't know, that wasn't that great of a show. This is the most underrated show of the year, Insanity Unleashed. You're gonna put Delirious and Jimmy Jacobs on the cover, so that's probably why it's not selling that many copies. But this is like a very good house show. The Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries versus Jerry Lynn and Tyler Black. That was a very good match. Jimmy Jacobs versus Delirio, no DQ match. Pretty much what you would expect. Okay. Match of the night, American Wolves versus Roderick Strong and Brent Albright. This is the most underrated American Wolves match of the year. Definitely check it out. Very hard hitting, very stiff. There's some like holy shit moments in this match. Claudio versus Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega is very fun. And Kevin Steen and El Generico versus Kenny King and Red Titus is also another very underrated match. So yeah, Insanity Unleashed, underrated show. So next up we get Steel City Clash. KENTA and El Generico versus Nigel and Davey Richards. A very solid main event. Great tag match. I love that match. Roger Strong and Austin Aries didn't live up to expectations. It wasn't that great. Bryan Danielson and Mike Quackenbush put on a pretty good match. This is a pretty good show. It's not great, but I say it's okay to pretty good. 7th anniversary show. Very, very good show. KENTA and Nigel McGuinness was awesome. And the Steel Generico versus American Wolves. A great double main event with some really fun stuff. Fun surprises and fun returns from Colt Cabana and Jimmy Rave. Next we get the show of the year, Supercard of Honor 4. It's not a perfect show, but there's about 3 or 4 matches which are awesome. This features the match of the year. Davey Richards versus KENTA. Definitely check it out. And finally, Nigel McGuinness' title reign comes to an end. Supercard of Honor 4. So next up, we get Taken Prisoners 2009. I don't know. This I have to say, I overrated this when I first saw the pay-per-view. It's definitely one of the weaker Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Probably somewhere in the middle. But the main event was awesome. Definitely, the main event is must-see stuff. KENTA and Tyler Black versus Nakajima and Aries. That was an awesome match. And you know, there's Alex Kozlov and Roger Strong was okay. Just a lot of okay to good matches on here, but the main event is really what you want to get this show for. So next up we get Double Feature 2. Most people say this is the match of the year as well. We get 2 different shows, but Tag Title Classic. This show has the American Wolves versus Tyler Black and Bryan Danielson match. That's an awesome match, and there's just some really just pretty solid matches on here. You really get your bang for your buck here. It's about a 3 hours and 45 minutes of wrestling on this show, so definitely check it out. Next up, we get a Cut Above. Like I've been saying, the most underrated Dayton show in a long time. Main event was awesome. Roger Strong versus Jerry Lynn. Definitely one of Jerry Lynn's best matches from his title reign. And then Tyler Black and Davey Richards have another good match here. Hero versus Cabana is a fun match. And yeah, just a pretty solid show, especially for a Dayton show. Homecoming 2. I overrated it when I first saw it. It's an okay show. It's a pretty good show. Not great though. Colt Cabana versus Jerry Lynn for the title. It's an okay match. It's not a great main event. Match of the night is American Wolves versus Kevin Steen and Jay Briscoe in a 2 out of 3 falls match. That was a pretty good match. Danielson versus Jimmy Rave was good, and Chris Hero versus Tyler Black was also good. So you get some pretty good stuff from the show, but just nothing great. So next up we get Never Say Die. A very fun show, very easy to sit through. One of the better shows of the year in my opinion. Kevin Steen versus Davey Richards was an awesome Anything Goes match. Just a nice hardcore brawl. And Jerry Lynn versus Chris Hero was an awesome match. Definitely Jerry Lynn's best match from his title reign. So yeah, Never Say Die. Pretty good show. Validation, arguably one of the weakest shows of the year. I'm not gonna say it's the weakest because they had a really good match. American Wolves versus Kevin Steen and Bryan Danielson. It was an awesome match. Definitely check that out. Really good stuff. Jerry Lynn and Jay Briscoe just fell flat for whatever reason. And just some pretty average stuff on here besides that. Mayhem 3. Really good stuff. I'm really enjoying this show. Watched it a couple times, and it gets better. I mean, I underrated it when I saw it live, but on DVD, this is pretty good stuff. Main event, Jerry Lynn versus Austin Aries versus Tyler Black. It was an awesome match. American Wolves versus Kevin Steen and Generico in the submission match was great. And then Roderick Strong and Sanjay Dutt, one of the most underrated matches of the year. And then the opening match with the Young Bucks versus Kenny King or Red Titus is a very good match. So yeah, those are my 2009 always DVDs. You know, I'll have the star ratings and the DVD rating on the description side. So check it out. I'm running out of time, so I hope you enjoyed the video.